Good Tuesday morning. We are still on the road. Today we were at Jets camp in Florham Park. We are inside today because Stephen Waldron, our fearless leader, got us out of the rain. He made the executive decision. He didn't even talk to the bosses above him. He just said, I am moving us inside because we cannot be rained on and struck by lightning. So that's why we are here, and we follow our leader. So we're in a little bit of a cramped media room, but we are excited to talk to some Jets that I'm not allowed to promote for whatever reason. There's going to be a few of them on.
This is like ridiculous.
It is a little ridiculous. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
First of all, I'm thinking about Al Dukes talking about how Tom Brady's the hot chick in that relationship.
I totally agree, though.
I mean, my God.
It's a great take.
CeeLo, you got to move over because I got to be on the X here. Stephen Waldron told me to be on the X.
No. Only for later.
Oh, only for later.
Later, when the guests come.
Oh,
yeah,
I thought it was be on the X. Now I'm being told to be on the X. Get on the X. So now it's later. Okay.
Yeah, it's later.
Sorry about
on
that,
the X.
CeeLo.
Yep.
I wasn't trying to get close to you or anything. But, yeah, so I mean, what a headache getting here, by the way. But that's okay. There's accidents all over the place. There's rain coming down like nuts. The Holland Tunnel's closed coming to Jersey.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. So not fun. But other than that, how you doing today?
I had a 2-minute commute from the Archer Hotel. It was great. I walked out. There was no rain. There were some puddles. I said, it must have rained last night. And I drove right over here. Had some eggs and fruit. Got my makeup done, and here we go.
No wonder why you are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed
this
morning, man. You got all your energy and everything. And how'd your golf game go with CeeLo yesterday?
It could have been better. I was a little bit disappointed. I did the thing that you never do. Both CeeLo and I had a touch-the-money spot yesterday. I had just gotten a lesson, and everything was great. It was probably the best lesson I ever had. Even the teacher was all jacked up for me. So I go and I tell CeeLo, this is it. Today is the day. I've been looking forward to this.
Today's the day.
Today is the day. And then it completely melted down. And then CeeLo, who had a great round, turns to me on 18, and he goes, I have not shot under 90 in a very long time. All I need to do is par this hole. Next thing you know, duff, balls going all over the place, almost went into the water, ended up, a little ping-pong golf. So we learned our lesson yesterday.
Okay.
Don't go in with a positive attitude. That's what you need to do.
Got to go in with you have to, especially at this point in your golfing career, which is about a year and a half in, you have to go in with realistic expectations.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all.
Which I normally do, but yesterday I was jacked up. But I'm not giving up. It's a grind. I was sitting at this hotel last night, and then I see the news come in that Dalvin Cook and the Jets agree to a deal, and I was looking out of the windows of the hotel bar, hoping that I would see him pull into the parking lot and walk in. I was ready to stalk him and get the first interview with Dalvin Cook as a Jet. I was surprised because it really seemed to me like the Miami Dolphins and Dalvin Cook were just waiting to form a relationship, hoping that the Jets would be able to get that dollar amount up on that one-year contract. But instead, the Jets took it a little bit further, over $8 million, and the Miami Dolphins weren't willing to do that. And now the Jets add another offensive weapon and another star name to this roster that is already just jacked with a ton of great players, and it's exciting now. As we sit here today, it is exciting on August 15th. We've seen some of these teams that get put together in this town, and you think that they're going to be great with superstars all over the place that don't end up being great. The Mets and the Nets, of course, but this feels different because of Aaron Rodgers, and I think Dalvin Cook's got a lot left.
Well, you would know because you're a Minnesota Viking fan. There is no question they are all in. There's still questions about their offensive line, and I'm sure we're going to see that on Hard Knocks tonight, by the way.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question. I guess it's on HBO if you have a cable service, but it's on Max if you're streaming it? Is that how it works?
Well, it used to be HBO Max, the streaming, and then they dropped that for whatever reason.
So
now
Max is just a streaming service.
Yeah, of HBO shows.
Of HBO shows.
Yes.
But then HBO is still on your cable.
Right, like if you just were clicking through cable and you wanted to see if any movies were on HBO, it's still called HBO.
It's still called it. All right, so that's
makes a lot of sense.
I was very, very confused about all of it. So I don't know why you would. Well, never mind.
Yeah,
that's way at the executive level of HBO and deciding to change things. I guess to differentiate from one service to another. I guess that's the point. But I would imagine tonight we'll see a lot about the offensive line. We'll see a lot from the practices, from the time that they spent with the Panthers last week. You remember that first practice that they had? Everybody was talking to Aaron about the pass protection and the flipping of the tackles and all that other stuff. I'm sure that will be weaved into tonight's Hard Knocks. And again, The growth of Zach Wilson will probably be in there. And then, of course, the rookie defensive linemen that are starting to show. And, the depth on this defensive line is about as good as there is in the NFL, which is paramount to success in this league. And I remember in 1993, we played the Cowboys. And I think I've told you the story before. We played them at MetLife Stadium. We hung with them for about a half and a half of the third quarter. And then all of a sudden we got steamrolled in the fourth quarter. And one of the reasons for that is because they had 8 defensive linemen, and they would just rotate those guys in left and right. And, that's really the secret to success in the NFL. If you can find 8 defensive linemen that are playing, in a 4-3 situation like the Jets are, and there are multiple players that can play multiple positions, you now put an enormous amount of pressure on most often the 5 offensive linemen that stay on the field for 4 quarters. So they're exhausted. The other guys are fresh. And, guys are playing, somewhere between 30 and 40 snaps a game as opposed to the 64 to maybe 75 snaps a game that an offensive lineman is playing. So it makes complete sense that you want to have depth all across that defensive line. And that's something that is probably, in my eyes, outside of maybe the wide receiver position and the defensive line position right now, are probably the 2 strongest position rooms that the Jets have here in Florham Park.
And that's what Rob Saleh brought over from San Francisco. They used to rotate a ton of those guys, had a lot of talented guys. His defensive line was always known as one of the best in football. He's trying to recreate that here. And yes, of course, getting to the quarterback and protecting the quarterback, paramount in the league. And I think that this defense we haven't talked about a ton because there's just so much focus on the offense. And now there's even more focus on the offense with Dalvin Cook. I mean, I would be shocked. The only way that this offense does not, and I'm going to not talk about injuries at this point because you have no idea, that's an obvious thing. But the only way that this offense does not work at the level we expect is if the offensive line is garbage. That's the only way. And I don't think it's going to be horrible, but it's not going to be a strength for them.
Well, you know how last week when they were down there with the Panthers, it was all about the Jets' offensive line.
Yeah.
And there were all of a sudden there's red flares in the air, and everybody's worried about what the future of this offensive line is going to be and all that other stuff. It was interesting. I was reading about the Panthers themselves in relation to the game that they got just crushed by the Jets.
Yeah.
And all the Panthers people are talking about their own offensive line and how they need to protect and need to be able to run the ball to help Bryce Young become the player that he's supposed to be. Now, all of a sudden, it's not Bryce Young. It's Bryce Young's first foray onto an NFL football field. Didn't go that smoothly, and everybody wants to blame the offensive line. So it happens in every city, no matter what happens. And Al Dukes will tell you because he's got PTSD from dealing with discussion about the offensive line, especially when it comes to the Giants.
That's right.
Which I don't think we'll have to talk about much there. But I kind of feel like once Aaron takes over, do you want to be the guy that gives up a sack?
Oh,
do you want to be a guy that blows an assignment? No, of course you don't, because you got a Hall of Fame 40-year-old quarterback back there, and you want to make sure that you're the one or part of the reason why he's protected and is going to have a great season. I'm going to stand by my statement that I told you about a month ago that Aaron Rodgers throws 50 touchdown passes this year.
Yeah.
If he plays all 17 games, that's the caveat. He has to play all 17 games. And if he plays all 17 games, he will throw for 50 touchdowns. And the reason I say that is because I know that he is all in. He has represented that by taking a $35 million pay cut. He has represented that by buying a house here in New Jersey. He is here every single day. He's doing things with his teammates. And, of course, he's got his offensive coordinator who got fired by the Denver Broncos and who was insulted by Sean Payton, his replacement. So don't think for a moment that those guys don't think in the back of their mind that this is going to be a year like he had in maybe 19 and 20 when he was MVP.
Oh, yeah, these are two guys who have had a ton of success in football and feel like they have to prove themselves over again because the Green Bay Packers didn't really want Aaron Rodgers again after winning back-to-back MVPs and then having a rough year because he ended up hurting his thumb, and then Nathaniel Hackett was the laughing stock, and the Broncos were the NFL last year. These guys are coming into this thing saying, all right, screw everybody, and there's going to be a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah, I think the Green Bay Packers wanted Aaron Rodgers, or they wouldn't have given that huge contract. I think ultimately they got tired of the lack of communication.
Okay.
The whole discussion about, my cell phone doesn't work sometimes when I'm at home. You have to text me, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
When he's in Malibu and all that other stuff. I just think that, for 19 years, I think it was 19 years in Green Bay, I think they just grew tired of each other within the last 6 months. And Aaron wanted a new start, a fresh start. And if you go by body language and you go by all the interviews, everything that you see on the sideline, everything you see on the practice field, you would say that he is recharged, 100% recharged, and certainly motivated to go out and have a great season. And like I said, every quarterback who's listening knows that if you have your offensive coordinator and you're running the same system that you have been running for literally 19 years with a tweak here and a tweak there and an update here and an update there, it's like a software package. You got to download the new software,
sure,
and you got to update it to make sure that you stay within the times of the NFL. That's what Nathaniel Hackett has done to this offense. And Aaron can do it in his sleep. He could close his eyes and be able to run this offense and be a coach on the field, which is, I think, what we saw, that first Hall of Fame weekend through Hard Knocks and through the Jets show. So I would imagine it's going to get better and more intense as we get closer to the start of the season, because their first 4 games are a bitch.
Yeah, and one of the many Jet Twitter things that we saw over the offseason was when the Jets were linked to Ezekiel Elliott for about a day, and you had the Jet running backs tweet out, I think our running back room is good, and then the people responding, yeah, I agree. Well, now they're adding another guy in Dalvin Cook to Breece Hall and Michael Carter. Of course, they drafted a guy in the 5th round as well. I don't know how that's going to go over at first.
Well, they got 5 running backs now.
Well, I know, yes. But, I mean, the guys, there's 3 that are going to mean something.
But the other guys got to play special teams, and if they're going to make the team. And I got to tell you, I was pretty impressed with the way that they ran against Carolina. They were running hard. They were lowering their shoulder. And I was telling you yesterday how it is motivation to have Dalvin Cook hanging out there.
Yeah.
Now that he's going to be brought into that room, don't think for a moment that those guys aren't waking up today. And not as out of disrespect for Dalvin and what he's already accomplished, but they're probably ticked off.
Oh, absolutely.
They're going to be ticked off, and they're going to be unhappy. I wouldn't be surprised if, you get a little bit of that verbalization that you hear from these guys that they're a little bit unhappy, and they should be, because this kid coming in is not coming here to back those guys up. He's coming in here to start and be a major part of this offense.
Should we look at this as a Breece Hall sort of alarm in the sense that maybe he's not as far along as we had hoped? Because that's something that popped into my mind yesterday was, wow, I mean, I guess they're not as positive about Breece Hall's ability to contribute in the first half of the season as I thought.
Personally, given the history of ACLs and everything that we know about them and everything we know about how running backs come back from them, it takes them more than a year to be totally confident about what they're doing with that. So if they sat him out for the first 6 weeks of the season and then he came back, like the Breece Hall we saw last year in the first 5 weeks, now all of a sudden, man, that's a pretty impressive kind of two-headed monster that you have with these other 3 guys behind them. They're loaded at running back now. They're loaded on the defensive line. They're loaded at wide receiver. They're loaded in the secondary. I mean, I don't know this team is poised. If all goes right and this offense clicks, as Jeff Ulbrich said in the first Hard Knocks, guys, we got 8. 8's going to win games for us. We just got to do our job. I mean, he is. That's how excited this team is that the defensive coordinator is talking about his own quarterback and how, this defense doesn't have to go out and win the games for this team. They just have to be a part of the winning. And I think everybody genuinely can't wait for the season to get started.
Yeah, one of the things that I saw that was sort of a consensus opinion yesterday when the Dalvin Cook signing happened was, wow, it's Super Bowl or bust, or now the Jets are really going for it. They already were. It's just funny to me that we talk for how long about the running back position being devalued. The running back position doesn't matter. You can get these guys from anywhere, blah, blah. That's been the entire offseason we talked about that. Then the Jets sign a running back, and it's like, oh, now it's Super Bowl or bust. It was already that way. So, I mean, this helps them out. I agree that the Dalvin Cook signing helps them out, but the chips were already in the middle of the table. I mean, they found another one on the ground and threw it into the middle of the table, too.
And I don't think they're done. I think that they're going to be scouring the league for offensive linemen, depending on what goes on with Dwayne Brown and Mekhi Becton. I mean, those 2 guys Like, they're question marks right now as far as I'm concerned. Rob Saleh can say whatever he wants about, Dwayne Brown coming back and he's going to be okay. I mean, he's coming back from a shoulder injury. I mean, that's not easy to come back from, when you're a left tackle in this league.
When you've also been playing for 45 years.
Well, he knows he can manipulate himself around. And by the way, he played hurt the better part of, 4 or 5 games the last season. So, he's all in. There's no question about that. But they're going to be still scouring for more offensive linemen, I have a feeling. And they have more than enough money to be able to absorb some offensive lineman that's going to get cut somewhere along the line.
All right, it's Boomer and Gio live from Jets camp. We're going to get a bunch of guests starting in just a little bit, but we're not allowed to say who and when. But
who put that out there?
Stay tuned. It has to be. I'll tell you off the air my take on that.
Okay.
All right, Boomer, you got something for the folks? We'll come right back with a CeeLo update.